This is the Wood Dog, DAWG, you see, and this is my segment, Just Keeping It Real, because keeping it real is the only thing that I know how to do. Before we get started, I would like everybody to please go to my YouTube channel, Just Keeping It Real at Wood Dog 4868. And you can view all my live videos that I did this year in its chronological order, and it helps out my channel and it'll allow you to receive future content. Thank you very much. I also bump these live segments over to my Facebook page under my name, Frank Wood. But as you know, all my friends and my boys in my club call me the Wood Dog, DAWG. And like I said before, my segment is not for comedy. I'm not on here to be the most popular person on YouTube. I'm just out here to keep it real. Okay. I'm going to be discussing three things today. I'm going to try to stick to my 30 minutes, three things today, and two of them will run hand in hand. The first one will be uh, the Wayne County Sheriff, Rafael Washington, again, pimping pastors in the community. That's number one. Number two will be the ethics complaint that was filed against the Wayne County Sheriff by the former Wayne County Sheriff Union President, Mr. Reginald Crawford. Him and I got together and we wrote basically the same complaint. And it didn't make sense for us to do the same thing. So he filed it and we just piggybacked off each other. But Mr. Crawford is the author of the ethics complaint filed against Sheriff Rafael Washington on December 12th of this year. And that story was on Channel 7. So if you go on Channel 7's website, look up investigations, you'll be able to see the article by investigator Ross Jones. And you'll also be able to see it on my Facebook page as well as Reginald Crawford's Facebook page. And the third thing that I'm going to talk about is something that's real troublesome if you let it. And that situation is FOC, otherwise known as the friend of the court. Excuse me. So, we're going to get into Sheriff Rafael Washington and pimping pastors, and we're going to get into his ethics complaint, and we're going to talk about the friend of the court, otherwise known as FOC. Okay, the first thing, Wayne County Sheriff Rafael Washington, pimping pastors. Now, what I mean by that is, and I'm going to explain, is that who's ever heard of the phrase separation of church and state? Okay, we've all heard that, but it seems kind of funny that Sheriff Rafael Washington wants to run to every religious organization, every church, every pastor in the city of Detroit and the entire Wayne County area, looking for support for his campaign, knowing his behavior in the community. Sheriff Rafael Washington has no business going to a church soliciting votes in the church setting. And that's one of the main reasons why certain elected officials, namely Sheriff Rafael Washington, our former mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, and even some current judges in the community, they want to try to cozy up and get close to these church pastors because some of these pastors in the community, they have the ability to sway their congregations one way or the other. And they have no business doing there, especially with a history that the current Wayne County Sheriff, Rafael Washington, has in the community. You all have been seeing this man's blunders over and over again. If you need to remind yourself about Sheriff Rafael Washington and his sexual harassment lawsuits, his avoidance of accountability to the public with multiple deaths in his Wayne County jail that he crows about being in charge of. He's crowing about a new facility that's being built right now at Russell and Ferry that he has no idea how he's going to staff it without creating all this plantation type overtime for the staff. Raphael Washington will always tell a lie when it's convenient for him. Okay, and then he just did a interview. Okay, with Channel 7, passing out $250 gift cards from Kroger to people in the public. Now, I get that, okay? It's the holiday season. I'm sure some needy people out here in the community could really use a $250 gift card. But to be pulling people over on traffic stops to give out those type of gifts to people is not right, because it puts people in fear. It makes them nervous. If anything, you call them to the headquarters, you meet them at their homes, you meet them at a rec center, or something like that. You don't be pulling people over on the street using lights and sirens, having people thinking that they did something wrong, and now you come and sticking a $250 gift card in they face. I mean, that's not right. That's not what traffic stops are for. Traffic stops are for keeping the road safe. It's a provision in the law that allows officers to detain a person briefly to hold them accountable for their driving behavior on the street, not to be using emergency equipment to be pulling people over like that, you know? But let me get into this situation where he was passing out these $250 uh, gift cards. Like I said, I get that for the people who needed it. But the reason why he came out with it so quickly and fast before other law enforcement agencies was doing the same thing is because he knew, Sheriff Raphael Washington knew that ethics complaint violation was coming out in the media on the same day. He knew that, and he tried to deflect uh, his ethics board complaint that was filed against him uh, by the former union president for the deputy sheriff, the Wayne County Deputy Sheriff's Association, Mr. Reginald Crawford, who also is a former police commission individual. Okay, now I told you the pimping pastors what I was talking about, and the ethics complaint was going to merge together in the three things we was going to talk about today. Now, to finish up with the pastors, the churches need to stay out of this business, with certain political individuals, especially individuals like Raphael Washington, who goes around grabbing backsides of staffers and getting lawsuits filed against him by numerous women. Some women had some good complaints, they just didn't follow through with it. But let me say this: Raphael Washington is going to single-handedly plunge Wayne County right back into receivership. He just had a $10 million lawsuit filed against him about 2 weeks ago. $10 million. And it's going to be another one coming right behind it. If you'll be able to see everything that I've been saying. Sheriff Raphael Washington is going to single-handedly plunge Wayne County right back into receivership, producing all these lawsuits on the taxpayers and citizens of Wayne County. Mark me on that. It's going to be multiple lawsuits coming because he doesn't handle the day-to-day operations of his sheriff's department. He gets up every day, spruces himself up, puts on that uniform, and just parades around the community trying to court pastors. And he's got these badges handed out to all these pastors in the community, trying to gain favor with them because it's election time in 2024 and he's running for office. So you're going to see that cat out in the community a lot more than normal. And let me give you a big one before I get into his ethics situation. There is two pastors in the community, and I know both of the church congregations. I personally know two of my coworkers who are members of these two separate church organizations. Last year in 2022, when Sheriff Rafael Washington was running for Wayne County Sheriff, he was bragging about having 80 chaplains. So that's 80 bad sheriff badges out in the community. That's 80 sheriff IDs out in the community that could be lost or get in the hands of the wrong people and have people parading around like they the police. But get this, those two pastors and those two congregations did not support Rafael Washington for sheriff. So what does Rafael Washington do in retaliation against both of these pastors? He sends his minions to contact both of these pastors in order to retrieve his special deputy IDs and special deputy sheriff badges back that he gave them. He gave them those IDs and badges, just like he gave many other pastors in the community, under the condition, whether it was official or unofficial, that they would preach to their congregation and get their votes to get him in office as sheriff. But these two congregations did not feed into the Sheriff Rafael Washington Kool-Aid pitcher. Those two congregations did not drink that purple Kool-Aid, that pink Kool-Aid, or that grape Kool-Aid, or whatever kind of Kool-Aid Sheriff Rafael Washington was pushing. They left the decisions to their congregations, to the people in the congregation. Excuse me. I mean, this stuff gets me so worked up, got me coughing. But let me tell you something. I'm not being truthful in what I'm saying. Rebuttal me. I got numerous videos out here on factual information that I've obtained and information that I personally know. And he ain't gonna go on to rebuttal me. I'm telling the truth. Because I spent over 30 years in the Wayne County Sheriff's Department as a deputy myself. I'm now retired, but listen to me. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. And if he wants me to call him on the carpet with those two congregations, I'll be more than happy to. But he's not going to. But pastors, churches, congregations, religious organizations, stay out of this mess. Sheriff Rafael Washington is not that guy. Now, moving on to the second thing, ethics. There was an ethics complaint filed against Sheriff Rafael Washington December 12th about him soliciting money for his mother, telling people to cash app his mama for her birthday. Listen, this is not about Sheriff Raphael's mother, okay? As I said before, God bless a woman who lives 86 years old, but this is about his behavior and what he knew that he could not do it. If he didn't know, he didn't have anybody around him to advise him that you can't do this. You can't receive gratuities and solicit stuff when you are elected official, because it gives the appearance that you're being bought off. And what is a gratuity? A lot of people really don't know what a gratuity is. I'll hit you up on it. A gratuity means payment, gift, loan, discount, advantage, priority, entertainment, subscription, advance, deposit of money, service, or anything of more than normal value presented or promised, unless consideration or sustainability equal or greater value is provided in exchange, but not limited to cash, food, drinks, travel, lodging, that sort of thing. Okay? You can't do it, but he did it anyway. Violated the own Wayne County ordinance. Okay? He violated ethics ordinance 40-2, gratuities to relatives. 40, he violated section 40-45, standard of conduct, gifts, and or gratuities. Okay, he can't get around the relative statute because it means people related to the individual as father, mother, son, daughter, brother, sister, uncle, great aunt, first cousin, nephew, niece, husband, wife, godfather, mother-in-law, and so on. That means that you can't do and solicit certain things. When you're in public office, you can't receive certain gratuities because it gives the appearance that somebody can have access to that person to get favors. Example, how many of you in the community have people in your lives or in your family that are police officers? And how many of you thought that you could act and do certain things just because that relative of yours is around in your vicinity and they are a cop, like they can do something special for you? Like, hey, can you run this person and see if they got, that's against the law for officers to do that? Running people in the law enforcement network to see if they got any warrants and stuff like that, if they don't have probable cause to be in contact with that person. That's what that means. Sheriff Rafael Washington has been receiving numerous gratuities, not only in this complaint where he was soliciting on Facebook, getting people to try to cash up his mother, but he constantly hangs out in the community, uh, receiving free dinners. He goes to sporting events. And you mean to tell me he's paying for this stuff out of his pocket? No, he's not. But he's not the right guy to be sheriff in Wayne County next year for that election. Not if I have anything to do about it and say about it. You see what I'm saying? Uh, this guy, arrogance knows no bounds. In the words of the late attorney Johnny Cochran, there is no room in our lives or society for a dirty, lying, dishonest cop. Let me tell you, Sheriff Raphael Washington is a union busting, backside grabbing, going out of town, disrespecting women, blame passing, press conference avoiding sheriff. That's what he is. If he won't stand up for his own people, what makes you think that he's going to stand up for you? He didn't advocate for his own deputies to receive a good benefits package last year with a contract. Well, actually, this year, 2023, the Wayne County Deputy Sheriffs Association that represents all the Wayne County deputy sheriffs, they had to fight tooth and nail to get what they got. And so did the supervisors, the sergeants and lieutenants union, which is 3317. He did not advocate one way or the other for them to receive anything. He didn't go to the CEO and say, hey, let these guys have a fair shake at that money. He didn't care one way or the other. But once they settled their contract with the CEO and his chief of staff, he gets on news outlets and talks to reporters lying that he was involved in the sheriff's negotiations for their contract, which was a lie. He wasn't even invited to the table to discuss the union's benefit packages. He wasn't even invited. The same way that he self-invites himself to events with the governor for domestic violence issues. Go figure that one. He's inviting himself to everything. And now recently, he wants to be in the community, trying to attach himself to the Detroit police chief, James White. James White has his own issues, his own department to deal with. And he doesn't need to be dragging along a dirty, lying, dishonest cop like Sheriff Raphael Washington. The man is being sued left and right, And if you notice, when you see Sheriff Raphael Washington in the community, what is the biggest thing that you notice? He never has his staff with him. It's a reason for that, because he's disrespected them. He's talked down to them, and they don't want to be in close company with him unless they're on the clock where he can officially order them to attend certain things. That's why he's out by himself trying to hang out with Detroit Police Chief James White. James White is an educated man. He's a smart man. He's an honorable man. He's doing the best job he can, coming in behind James Craig, who obviously, quite frankly, didn't leave him much to do, but just take over. Okay, I get it. My man handling his business. But Sheriff Raphael Washington isn't handling his business. He still got that labor plantation mentality down there in the jail. All this overtime causes new hires to come into jobs, see those conditions, and rotate right back out the door because he doesn't know how to rein in his rogue staff. And when I say his rogue staff, I'm talking about his chief of jails, Robert Dunlap, that do nothing, getting a check and not working. Mike Jafer of an undersheriff, if you want to call him that, and a few other people on his staff that's been hit with drunk driving arrests, like his captain in internal affairs, Reed Chakrabarty, and his recruiting individuals who do nothing but drive cars back and forth outside of Wayne County using Wayne County taxpayer gas and money. All right. I mean, how much do we have to do? But I do know this. You're going to see Sheriff Raphael Washington out in the community a lot after January 1st, begging for campaign money for his campaign, trying to hold on to that sheriff's seat and ain't doing a damn thing for Wayne County, but he sure is enriching himself. And once again, Sheriff Raphael Washington, with these multiple lawsuits coming out of his department, the Wayne County Sheriff's Department that I retired from, he's going to single-handedly plunge Wayne County right back into receivership if Wayne County has to keep paying these million-dollar judgments to settle lawsuits on his behalf of his mismanagement of him, his chief of jails, Robert Dunlap, and his undersheriff, Mike Jafer. Those three individuals are going to be out in the community next year trying to advocate to get Washington back in office. For what? To save their jobs. That's why. Their jobs are not union related, they're appointed, and they're going to do and say anything to try to keep them. But not if I got something to say and do about it, and that remains to be seen. Citizens of Detroit and citizens of Wayne County know that. So, moving on to the last thing that I'm going to talk about today, because I want to always stick to my 30 minutes. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is FOC, friend of the court. All right, let's get it. We all know about child support. You remember back in the 70s when Martha Jean Queen used to call people out when the big three workers would get their bonuses and stuff like that, and she called them out. Yeah, them child support checks need to be sent to the parents, and they getting their bonuses. So you need to go down there to the courthouse and get your money. Blah 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 blah. All right, a lot of things have changed since then. Friend of the court is not your friend when you're behind on child support. But at the same time, the friend of the court has to do what they supposed to do too. And they've been doing that. They have a DNA office on the first floor of the Penobscot building. So if you, a male or female, I'm going to get to that in a minute, have an issue with paternity, you need to contact the friend of the court and schedule a DNA if you think that the child is not yours. Why pay for something that's not yours? All right. But avoiding the notifications from the court to come down and produce DNA, avoiding letters from the court, the friend of the court will have a warrant issued for you eventually. It's a morality thing, until your child support reaches the level between $8,000 and $10,000. Once your child support delinquency builds up between $8,000 and $10,000, now you're on the felony child support docket, and now you got the deputies coming out looking for you. You know what I'm saying? They're going to look for you for the contempt of court child support warrant. But when you get put on that felony child support docket, now you run risk of losing your driver's licenses, certain licenses for be doctors and all this good stuff. And if they find your vehicle, they could take it, and stuff like that. But the best thing that you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is to contact the court with your situation and make an arrangement. So that way you can keep a warrant out of the system for your arrest. Too many times people talk about, yeah, man, the friend of court did this, the friend of court did that, but people are ignoring the notifications. And those warrants are going out to your last known address. If you move, it's your responsibility to notify not only the Secretary of State that you moved your address, but you also have to notify the friend of the court that you moved to another location. So that way they know where to send the notices to talk to you. Most of the time, a warrant for child support, front of the court, can be avoided if you contact the front of the court. All right. A lot of people got all these warrants out here for child support only because they're avoiding the court. If you ain't got no money, come in. They have people designated to help you fill out modification paperwork to modify your child support if your financial situation has changed. But when you keep avoiding the court, you're going to keep the deputies looking for you. It doesn't matter what county you go to. All county sheriffs have a front of the court division. It's a group of deputies that their main function is to go out and look for people for child support warrants or FOC absconders. Okay. Now, the problem that I had, man, I'm gonna just keep it real, okay? There's certain segments of the community where friend of the court warrants aren't being enforced fairly, you know? And let me explain. As we all know, more men are arrested for child support than anybody. But I can remember there was a time, believe it or not, when I was assigned to the Wayne County Front of the Court Division in charge of picking people up for child support. I was arresting more women for child support than men. Nobody's above a good thing. Sometimes men, they get a new piece and they run away from their families. Well, women do the same thing. Okay. But the biggest deal with friend of the court is if it isn't being enforced fairly. A lot of times the deputies from multiple counties are picking people up out of trailers, out of cars that parked on the street with no power, pulling guys out of houses, sleeping on floors without a pot to piss in, and bringing them in for child support, knowing that they don't have anything. You know, those are situations that kind of break your heart because, yes, they have a child support obligation, but he's on his knuckles or she is on his knuckles, you know. And I do remember that there was one community in particular uh, that rarely had child support enforced in it. And it kind of puzzled me because I'm like, we're driving all over the Tri County area, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Washtenaw counties, looking for people for child support. But yet, it was one particular community that we rarely went into, you know. And when I started building files uh, for people with child support in these particular communities, my paperwork would mysteriously come up missing. Files that I spent an hour to work on. For an officer to work up a file on somebody for child support, um, it takes about a good hour and a half to do it right. I mean, if you're going to enforce anything, it's supposed to be even Steven across the board. You don't pick and choose who you go get. You go get them butt cheeks and bring them in. That was the phrase for the wood dog. Hey, let's go get them butt cheeks. But if you're going to do it the right way. You know, in the community I'm gonna just keep it real was the community of Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. Why is it that most of the child support uh, warrants in Wayne County are being enforced in Detroit, Inkster, Highland Park, uh, some Redford, Livonia, and all these areas, but they ain't out in the Grosse Points grabbing nobody up out there for child support. They ain't grabbing nobody up in Dearborn Heights on the regular. They ain't grabbing nobody up in Dearborn on the regular. Why is that? Hmm. But like I said, when I had addresses to some of those communities, I might be off work or somewhere at court, or could I come back in my paperwork? I say, well, how come we not going to get them butt cheeks in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights? How come we not going to Grosse Pointe Farms and going up there? You know, they get a pass. I'm just keeping it real. And it depends on the person who's doing the enforcement. He might want to stay in good because he might be of the same ethnicity as the people that he's enforcing in. So he wants to stay out of those areas and just go after people in certain areas that look like me. They ain't got no problem going in areas enforcing these friend of court warrants on people like me. But all I'm saying is, if you're gonna do it right. So all this falls on Sheriff Raphael Washington, because when the cat's away, the mice will play. All right. So, like I said, this is the Wood Dog, DAWG, and this is my segment, Just Keeping It Real. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And I just hope that we do not put this rogue sheriff, Raphael Washington, back in office in 2024. He doesn't need to be there. He doesn't do his job, but he wants to come to your church and your congregation and try to beg for your vote and your campaign money. We can do much better in Wayne County. This is the Wood Dog, and I'm out. And I want to thank all of y'all for listening.